Okay, we're live now, and after we're live, it goes into play on demand.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Our pizza is going to arrive as we're going, and we'll just kind of go up and get the pizza as it comes. We're not quite sure when it's going to come, but so hopefully you're not starving. So welcome to the KAHEA Council's 2020 legislative priorities and discussion here. We've got several people that want to present. I think almost everybody in here wants to present. So each person is going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. I'll just kind of moderate. I'm Rick Tabor, by the way, so I'm on the board with HPGS. I'm also on the board with KAHEA Council here as well. And Jim is actually, you may have heard this, but he's on the mainland for a Peace Corps 50th anniversary reunion. So he's asked me to moderate today, so that's what we're doing. So I got a couple of people who want to go first, and then we'll just kind of go around and have people come up. So really just try to do 3 to 5 minutes. So again, some people came in late. You've heard me say this a couple of times. The yellow cards are your ideas right now that you'd like to use us to focus on for legislative session. Those are your ideas. So put those down right now before you hear everybody, or at any point you can add to it. The green card is at the very end after you hear everybody speak. You want to kind of prioritize what you think we should focus on as a council, okay? And then we'll compile it and kind of go from there, right? So again, when the pizza gets here, we'll just get, we'll call it out and go up and get pizza, okay? So, all right. So right up front here, I have a few people that need to leave early, so they're going to present first, and then we'll just go around from there, okay? So.
Aloha and good morning, everybody. My name is Kathryn Xian. I'm the co-founder of the Pacific Alliance to Stop Slavery. We were responsible for reforming the prostitution laws over the past 11 years, 12 years, 13 years, and passing eventually the state's anti-sex trafficking law, which went into effect in 2016. I am here to talk to you about the child abuse statutes and the case laws surrounding these child abuse laws here in Hawaii, which enable more further abuse of children. It's become apparent to me that the child welfare system is flawed in many ways. It's underfunded and laden with problems. Because of case law, the bar establishing harm for children who are abused by their families or family members, or people who are in charge of them as family members, is set extraordinarily high. So there is a case law that exists wherein which a mother beat her daughter with a metal wrench. And because of this case law, which was found in favor of the defendant, the mother, who abused her child, because of this incident, anything that falls under the realm of, but anything that falls under the standard of a mother beating a child with a wrench will not be considered imminent threat or harm. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why CWS, or Child Welfare Services, ends up returning children to their abusers. And this must be stopped. One of the reasons why this case was established and why the judge found in favor of the abuser is because of a racist understanding of Hawaiian culture, wherein which it was said that Hawaiians are culturally inclined to beat their children. Nothing further could be from the truth. Before contact, there was no such thing as child abuse. The most that a parent had to do to a child who was being disorderly was tap them on the hand or the leg, and that was about it. It's because of colonization. It's because of the racist assimilation of the host culture here is the reason why these social ills befall the Hawaiians of today. So it is unjust, essentially, to establish by law that Hawaiian families who are already disproportionately represented in all of these social ills that befall us, domestic violence, child imprisonment, all of those things, alcoholism, mental illness, homelessness. It's unjust to establish by law a higher standard that raises the bar unusually high for harm in child abuse cases. And I've come to this committee to ask for your support for legislation to be introduced. One legislator who I've never worked with before, but she sincerely takes an interest in this and will actually, I believe her to see this issue through, is Donna Mercado Kim. Now, we have sat at the opposite ends of the spectrum with regard to certain issues in the past, yes. But this is one thing where we stand firm in allegiance to address, and I ask for your support. The legislation has not been drafted yet, so I don't have a bill number for you. It's a little early. But I can keep in touch with this council through Doug, who's a personal friend, to apprise those interested of what the bill number will be and the contents of which, and when it will be scheduled for hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so next we'll have Hawaiian Meals on Wheels present. Maybe come up to the
Yeah.
podium, it'll be easier.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Cordero-Lee. I'm from Hawaii Meals on Wheels. And sort of what I don't have any actual bill that I'm supporting currently or want to propose, but I do want to bring some priorities that I think need to be addressed, and hopefully we as a community for our kupuna can do so. So I'll just give you a little bit of background. At Hawaii Meals on Wheels, we serve over 100,000 meals annually. That's about 800 clients. And we serve not only, we deliver more than a meal. So, and the reason why we say that is because it's not just the nutrition we're giving, it's the socialization as well. And that's really key, since two of our key factors to the demise of a kupuna is not only their hunger, their nutrition, but also the fact of their socialization. Depression is a huge factor in chronic illness, heart disease, and other health concerns. And what a lot of people don't realize is the types of services that are provided for our kupuna, as well as the fact that there are more than just one Meals on Wheels program on Oahu. There's actually 5. So there's Lanakila Pacific, there's Hawaii Meals on Wheels, there's Palolo Chinese Home, there is Keiki Tu Kupuna Foundation out in Waianae, and there's another organization called Mom's Meals. And Mom's Meals, and we're all actually contracted by the city, and Mom's Meals is a program that is what they call a home delivery service by mail. So you get your food in a box.
That's on Oahu?
Yes.
Wow.
And that's exactly it. A lot of people don't realize that there's actually 5.
I thought it was just Maui.
I have heard, we've tried to call them up to see if we could get services. And apparently they're not active currently. But we were told that they would be serving rural areas of our island. And our key differentiation between us and the other Meals on Wheels program is that we provide a lot of medical meals, because we do not make our own meals. All of our meals are made by hospitals and nursing homes, in which we can provide a renal, a diabetic, a high cholesterol, low cholesterol, high fat even. So that is our key strength, and a lot of our clients are at the point in their life where they need either a textured meal, like chopped or pureed or moist, and we have a nutritionist on site who can, at the kitchens, who can certify those meals. So that is the main difference for us. We deliver only hot meals, which means we have a large volunteer force who needs to make deliveries daily. But what I'm realizing and Doug, who has been working in the industry for a number of years as well, is that one of the key things that we're finding is this collaboration effort. For us, it's very, and Kokua Council does a really good job of providing a forum, but for me and for our staff, I feel like we need some kind of Kupuna forum to be able to understand, even at the government level, the different agencies and the services provided. Because I know a lot of people here, when we say we're contracted with the city, people don't realize, okay, wait, there is a chore service, potentially. There is a senior friend service. There is heavy duty chore service. And so a lot of people in the Kupuna arena do not realize all the different services available. They don't realize the waiting list. They don't realize how can we collaborate together to kind of call someone up and say, how do I get someone on your list for bathing service or for chore service or for senior friend? And then what we're also realizing as we've been here for many years now is that we don't realize the qualification and then what kicks them off of service. So for us at Hawaii Meals on Wheels, we're realizing that for some of our clients, getting extra support from their church or from a neighbor or for someone else will actually cause them to get kicked off of home delivered meal service, because that's considered familial support. So, I feel like a lot of these things have to be discussed among, the Kupuna advocates, so we can, and then also bring government to the table to talk about these issues. I think I've said this a number of times too, is my concern about an appeal process. Currently, when my clients get kicked off because the city makes a decision that someone is mobile, the only advocacy we have is going to that city person's next supervisor up. And I know I've talked to other agencies as well, and they also have a concern about this appeal process and in terms of what gets someone on and what gets them kicked off of service. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is whether we as a community should ask for a Kupuna study of all of the services, all of the needs, and not just on Oahu, but on all of the islands. I think the last one that was done was almost, I want to say 8 years ago. And so many of our Kupuna are much older now. Their needs are much more extreme. And the question is whether we are able to fulfill those needs. Like I've mentioned this many times before, some of the clients we're seeing, I'll give you an example, what he had mentioned just last year is, last year was the first time we had 3 clients who were all over, referred to us from the city, all over the age of 85 and caring for a 70-year-old, whether it was their child was disabled or was dealing with some kind of cancer. So, I just want to put some of those issues out there in terms of, as a community, to do some kind of study to really look at, what are the needs of our Kupuna, who our Kupuna are, what they're dealing with, and, do they feel like they're getting bounced around? Because I know our clients feel like they're getting bounced around a lot. So those are the things I wanted to put forth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. You wanted to go next?
Thank you. My name is Yuan. I'm representing PAHEA, the Policy and Advisory Board for Elders Affairs. We advise the Executive Office on Aging, on Policy and Programs. So PAHEA is a board that consisted of around 15 governors appointed members, and we also have around 10 ex-officials on the board that came from different state departments and other entities that concerns elders affairs. So we have meetings every month. So I'm going to invite all of you, if interested, come join us at our monthly meeting, which is on the first Friday at the Executive Office on Aging's office, their conference room. On the first Friday of each month, we meet at 11:30. So if you're interested, the board meeting is open to the public. So
where is it located, please?
it is located at the Executive Office on Aging's office, which is at the corner of Hotel and Richard Street. Okay, so it's on the fourth floor.
On the side of the Capitol.
Right, on the side.
Across
of-
Richard Street from the Capitol,
Mhm.
the old Hemmeter building.
Yeah.
On
Okay.
the fourth floor, you said?
On the fourth floor, yes. So, and if you need more information, you can either reach out to Barbara's service or myself. This year, PAHEA has not have the chance to vote on our priorities yet, but we have been discussing the following priorities. So I want to share that with you all. So two of those priorities are related to Executive Office on Aging's programs. One is the Kupuna Caregivers Programs. This is a program that was first funded around 3 years ago. So this is the third year of operating the program through ʻiʻo. So as you all know, Kupuna Caregivers, the focus of that program is to support caregivers to working caregivers to remain in the workforce while they are taking care of their family members, Kupuna. So the focus of the Kupuna Caregivers really is to keep the employed caregivers in the workforce. So in the end, when they reach their retirement age, they would be able to have enough, for their retirement. So a lot of time, especially women who needed to take care of the, kupuna in a family, they will need to quit, or reduce their work hours. So that has a long-term impact on their retirement well-being. So the Kupuna caregiver programs is especially designed for that population. So it also helps, of course, to keep the Kupuna in the community at home while they're needing a long-term care. So Kupuna caregiver programs receive funding for the third year. So currently, the benefit is $350 for a week of care that the caregivers can work with the local aging office in each county to access this program. Then they can choose to use various types of programs to support their elderly to be cared at home and in the communities. Often access program is daycare, senior daycare programs, because that is relatively inexpensive. For day of care, they usually cost around $70 or so. So it fit the program's budget very well. But the caregivers can also choose to use other programs as long as it fit into $350 per week. Then that can be covered by this program. So the program benefit is directly used for accessing the programs, not to the caregivers. But I think most of you have heard about the program and have, probably know someone who used this program. And this program has been still in kind of a pilot stage. The ʻiʻo has been collecting information through the 4 counties office on aging to collect program information. And because many of these kupuna has been staying in the program require long-term kind of help, so the turnover is not very fast. So this current year, the legislature asked that ʻiʻo to come up with a plan to expand the coverage to expand the reach of the program, because obviously this program, because the kupuna require long-term care, and so the number of people served in this program is not a large number, although last year it was funded for $200,000, but then $2 million, yeah, $2 million last year. But then because the number of people served overall is not a large number; it's on the hundreds. So so the legislature asked ʻiʻo to come up with a plan to expand the reach of this program, as well as to think about what other things that can improve in terms of how the program operates and the benefits and so forth. So so we ask that you will support this program to let ʻiʻo serve this unique and much needed population. So for the 4th year. So so please keep this program in mind. And then the other program that ʻiʻo also will submit requests to the governor's budget is that the Healthy Aging Partnerships. The Healthy Aging Partnerships is a program that is more on the prevention side to help people with seniors through 2 major programs. One is exercise that the senior can join in their local communities. They can join the program to do exercise to keep them healthy and keep them balanced. And in fact, the exercise program is proven to be very helpful to prevent fall. Yeah, as we all know, fall prevention is a key program among the seniors to keep them healthy and be active, continue to be active in the community. So, and the second component of this Healthy Aging Partnerships is the chronic disease management. They utilize Stanford programs, evidence-based programs for participants who have either diabetes or other chronic diseases. It varies for each county, but these programs funding is essential to keep these prevention programs in the communities in all 4 counties. So that's Healthy Aging Partnerships that I want you all will support. These are the 2 main priorities that ʻiʻo related to ʻiʻo programs. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you. So our pizza is here. So if people want to just kind of trickle on up, we'll keep doing the presentation though, because we got a lot of people that want to present. So, Kat, did you? Okay, so we're going to do Kat, then we'll do you next.
Okay.
We'll just go around. But if you want to come up and grab a slice of pizza while we're presenting, if it isn't too distracting for you.
Aloha, everybody. I'm Kat Brady from Community Alliance on Prisons, and I'm so grateful to be here. I'm going to keep it really short so you can come up right after me. But I'm going to talk about 3 things today. The first bill that is going to come up again this session is on compassionate release. This is a really important bill, and it was actually written by the premier gerontologist in San Francisco who helped us write this bill. The governor vetoed the bill, despite the fact that we have 650 people who are aging in prison and jail. So that's a problem, and we're going to continue pushing for that. The second thing I'd like to talk about is solitary confinement. Hawaii, solitary confinement is probably one of the worst things you could do for somebody. You totally isolate them by incarcerating them, and then you isolate them further from the general population. And the UN has come out and said nobody should be in solitary more than 14 days. Hawaii has had people for years in solitary. And it has been really difficult to get the legislature to understand that what we're doing is actually causing great harm that is going to cost us in the future. So this is a real problem. And then the third thing I want to talk about is the new jail. The plan for the administration is to move OCCC to the animal quarantine station. Isn't that a statement? Right now, OCCC has an operating capacity of 954, and there are 1,214 people in there. So it's obviously overcrowded, but it is not as overcrowded as many other jails around the state. So we've got a huge problem, and I'll tell you why. Because 74% of all the people incarcerated by the state are in for the lowest felony and below. So as one judge said to me, oh my God, we have serial shoplifters. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're spending a lot of money, almost $250 million a year on corrections, and we're not really moving the needle. It's not helping people. We're incarcerating people for nuisance crimes, mental health, and public health issues. This is ridiculous, expensive. We have thousands of families living on the street. This should not be acceptable to anybody. OCCC should not be our answer to housing or mental health treatment. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was quick, yeah.
Thank you, Kat.
Very good, very good.
Okay, so we're just gonna go around this way, just to make it simple. Does anybody else have to leave right away? We're good, okay.
Okay,
So,
right.
Martha, you're on.
Yep, give me a sec. Getting out of the chair is this part that takes long.
And getting back in.
Getting back in is easy, I just fall back in.
All right, introducing Martha.
This is very nice. More interesting than I expected.
My name is Martha Randolph, and I'm representing the Kupuna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. I just found out I was doing this morning a few minutes ago, so excuse me for my multiple paperwork here. All right now, the Kupuna Caucus of the Democratic Party has certain efforts they're focusing on. One of them is the seniors' rights, economically speaking, in condominium associations, and in physical safety, also in condominiums and rental housing. Now, my first question was, what is this about? Apparently, and some of you may already know this, condominium associations have the right to foreclose without any judicial procedure on someone who owns a condominium who has failed to pay their monthly dues. And unfortunately, what has happened is that seniors have become very much the victim of this. Now, there are many other condominium owners who also don't pay their dues, and that's not an issue. Our issue is seniors who may be, for economic reasons, unable to pay, for reasons of lack of organization or awareness, are unable to pay, and they are not given the right to be properly informed before these procedures go through. I checked with one of our lawyers who said, as far as she knows, those seniors should have the ability to appeal and turn the foreclosure or the eviction into a judicial case. But she wasn't sure. And if you're a senior who's been missing your payments anyway, logic tells you that they may not be able to say, excuse me, I would like to appeal. So that is an issue we wish to take up. And while they did not give me specifics on seniors' physical safety, particularly in condominiums and rentals, as a woman who just had a knee replacement, I can tell you that I had to get railings put into a stairway where I live, and it's a rental property, and of course the landlord was not going to pay for it. And I discovered that even though theoretically Medicare will cover some things like that, it can take as much as a year to get that approved. I was introduced to an organization called Access to Independence, which I would never have heard of if the nurse and social worker from United Care had not come to visit me, and I told them the problem. And they are an organization, and I'm sure there are others out there, that will send someone to assess your needs to maintain your independence, and will help you pay for alterations in your home or condominium so that you can continue to live safely. I have a feeling that these particular concerns on our caucus is what they are talking about. If nothing less, everyone should have access to the information they need, and perhaps condominiums and landlords should be required to add those things that will not substantially change the state of the condominium or rental, as long as to assist the people who are paying rent or have long-term residence to live comfortably and safely. Come back. I hate computers. Okay, here we go. Except when they work.
Me too.
Now, there is also, and some of you may not realize this, we have heard that there is a situation existing where seniors who are hired to do jobs are allowed to be paid less than minimum wage. Now, I personally have not experienced this. Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know why it's listed here, and I have no information on that. In my experience, there are federal bonuses for some businesses if they hire a senior, and they get some kind of tax bonus. That has happened to me, and I was never offered less than minimum wage. So I'm not sure what this is about, but we certainly want to make sure that anyone who is hired, who is capable of doing a job, is not paid less than the minimum wage, and regardless of whether they have some kind of limitation or handicap or age issue. I believe young people are still allowed to be hired for less than minimum wage if they are under a certain age. This is also something I don't know a lot about because they just told me this morning. Yay. Okay. So, most important, we are concerned right now about healthcare legislation and an organization that was known or is known as Hawaii Health Authority. Now, they are supposed to advise the state on the needs of seniors and others and the healthcare system and what is needed, what is working, and what isn't. They have no budget. They have no permanent location. And at least one of the members on that organization, which may or may not be receiving salaries, is personally aligned with HSMA. You can perceive the problem. HSMA has introduced, and some of you probably know this, a new payment plan. And that new payment plan means that they are paying physicians one lump sum per month according to the number of patients that the doctor is serving. It has nothing to do whether someone's sick or has to come more often or requires more assistance or more programs. And it is a program which began 2 years ago. There is no evidence that it is saving anyone any money, but it's a situation where larger organizations like those partnerships where they have 1,500 or more patients, yes, they're making more money because they can get the money for the people who aren't showing up. But for doctors who serve less than 1,000 patients, they are being penalized. And it is encouraging a practice where doctors would rather prescribe over the phone or by long distance because then they don't have a visit, which they're not getting paid for. And we have a problem right now of a shortage in the state of Hawaii, which includes all the islands, of between 900 and 1,600 doctors. Shortage. They have either closed businesses, they have gone to the mainland. In some cases, they have joined a conglomerate because they had to. But this is a crisis which this organization should be talking to the government about, but it's not, is it? Because apparently it has no budget and it doesn't even have a location. So we would like to revive this organization and find out what's going on with it and get it funded so it can do its job. So right now, these are the priorities that were listed and that came to me early this morning. I know that we are joining with other caucuses in the Democratic Party. There's a caucus for, we have a healthcare committee, by the way. We do have a committee, not a caucus, and we are joining together with the committee. We are joining together with the environmental organizations and committees and caucuses to put out what we feel is important to the community as a group. So if any of these issues, especially the medical ones, touch you, if you feel they are concerned, I see right away that we have things in common. We share things in common. And I think it's more impressive if you come behind a bill that's been carefully prepared by the experts in the Democratic Party who know how to write these things. And if we come with 5 or 6 different organizations that say we support this, I think there's more oomph to that. So either jump on the caucuses and join, or let's find out, let's communicate together if we have shared agendas, yeah? Okay, that's my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as much as we can kind of tear down the silos and team together, which is kind of what we're doing here today, I think the better going forward. So we're going around the table here. Did you guys come to present anything?
I only have one comment.
Okay.
Build a TNT and dump the truck.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Two comments.
I'm going to go back here to this table, then I'll come back to the main table here. Dale? Okay. Okay. You got 5 minutes.
Probably too much. I'm a little bit of a moving target. I talked briefly last year, but I talked too fast. My apology for that. See, I moved into a condo when I was age 39 because I couldn't afford a house like most people in Hawaii these days. Now I'm 70. So I've been here 31 years. I spent a decade on the board. I know too much. I know the games that are played. The money I paid for my condo plus the mortgage was just a down payment on a lifetime of monthly fees. These are determined by the property management companies, not the board. They just rubber stamp it, then they're given credit for it, okay? Like as a retiree, if I get 0.2% of an increase, we get slapped with 9.44%. Do the simple math. You get $1 raise on your limited income, it goes up 47 bucks, 47 times higher. I got a 3% raise one year. It went up 27.9%. This is ridiculous. Nationwide, not just Hawaii, but nationwide, this is unregulated industry. These property management companies have their lobbyists in every legislature. I got a bill, I worked with other people to get a bill through the House this past current legislature without a single nay vote, to remove something from this dreaded proxy form, to move in the direction of allowing more people to vote. It was shot down in the Senate. I checked online, found out the senator who blocked it, senator from Maui, she accepts donations from those property management companies. What they want, she approves and has a hearing, becomes law. What they don't want, she will not give it a hearing. This is corruption, okay? Yep. But I'm just one voice. When the state set up condos decades ago in the 60s, I believe, it made no provisions for a code of ethics, for accountability. I did a forensic audit this last year and this year, and I found out how they cheated to win the election to keep the board stacked with fools to do what the property management wants them to do. I can't do anything about it unless I hire a private practice attorney and go to civil court. I can't afford that. I was involved in one of those things before. Oh my God, you got a few $100,000, you know? Most of us do not. But if you have people that are on the wrong end of nonsense in their condo situation, I'd like to know that. Put them in contact with me so we can network together. And I appreciate the last speaker, what she's talking about. I need to get with her on some of this stuff, okay? We have corruption in the legislature. We have a lot of corruption in these property management companies. And it's come out of our pockets. You may not be in a condo now, but you probably know someone who is, so we may in the future be in one, okay? I think of it as organized crime myself. Thank you.
All right, Dale, thank you. Just want to acknowledge that we have Senator Moriwaki here. Thank you for coming, Senator. Dr. Balaz, would you like to present? You're not? Okay. Who's next then? Anybody? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, moving right along. Okay, Lourdes is going to present.
Hi, my name is Lourdes Scheibert, and I'm part of the Cocoa Council also. And we have a lot of educational people on Cocoa Council. So this might appeal to them. And I'm very happy to see Senator Moriwaki. And I'm going to speak on an editorial in the Star Advertiser called Business Get a Break on State Fees After Funds Go Unspent. State officials also won't be collecting a $5 biennium fee from condo owners, unit owners. Revenue from the fee is deposited into a condominium educational trust fund to support education and research into condominium management and condominium-related disputes. The balance of that fund has grown to $2.5 million as of the 2018 fiscal year, up from $785,000 in the fiscal year 2015. So on average, the state had been spending about $500,000 from the fund during those years, allowing the balance to increase at a high rate. So I would love to give the $2.5 million to abuse on children, but I can't. So just a little data, in 2017, we showed 1,787 condominium associations representing 168,230 units, which would be one owner. On the board of volunteer directors can be 5 to 7 serving their communities. On an average of 7 volunteer directors multiplied by 1,787 equates to 12,500 directors. I've attended, since last year, I've attended condominium educational seminars. So you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But time is so short with an hour-and-a-half presentation to get a full picture of a very complicated business of managing a condominium. And for me, this is overwhelming. But on September 14th, I attended Hawaii Council of Community Associations, which is Jane Sugimura. By far the very best director's training that I've ever attended, because it drew everything together and it mended every other educational program that I attended. Not only that, she gave out a workbook, which I was able to follow the speakers, and write down my own notes. So that I hold with me, and I refer back to that. So how do we educate nearly over 12,000 directors and kind of grab on to 168,000 owners? Because when I started this, I was just an owner that only knew 3 things: where to park, don't make any noise, and pay my maintenance fees. But along the way, I've learned a lot. And the only way you can cover such a vast number of people is to do online computer training. And for the director, complete a test online. And I don't like to use the word mandatory, but it really needs to be made mandatory. And I'll give you an example. I think the last speaker was Martha. And as far as the Kupuna, there's a way in 514B to make the appeal process be part of your project documents. I've introduced this several times to my board as a director, and they refuse to do it. Instead, they wanted to conveniently give it to the management company who handles the violations. And there's nobody to speak, to appeal to 3 of your owners who sit on a panel and say, you know what, Lourdes, you cannot pay this month, so let's spread out your payment. This is what the appeals process is all about in 514B. So I don't want to get too long-winded because I probably can. I'm very, I'm very happy to see Senator Moriwaki. I hope you support, keeping the fund going and not ending it. $2.5 million is a lot of money to get this thing started. And I, as a condo owner, would be even willing to pay $10 every other year to even get deeper into training and education, because that's where it's at. And if you took Lourdes Scheibert from a year ago and you take Lourdes Scheibert today, who's been educated, then you know the difference, and my friends do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes. Okay. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, Dave Mulinix.
Dave Mulinix. Okay. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you're from.
Okay. Aloha kako. Thank you for inviting us to this opportunity. My name is Dave Mulinix. I'm with 350 Hawaii and our Revolution Hawaii. And I'm here to talk to you and ask you to support Climate Emergency Declaration, as well as Bill 25 in the County Council. Why is this important? Climate change is here. It's happening now. It's growing, and it's getting more intense every year. We just had 4 of the hottest years in history, the last 4 years. This year is going to be the 5th hottest year in history. We've had this quickening going on, and now we're seeing more and larger hurricanes. It's not a question of if a hurricane the size that wiped out Puerto Rico will hit Hawaii. It's a matter of when. They're actually backing up one hurricane after another. Last year was kind of scary to see how many were coming our way. The Greenland ice sheet, scientists predicted that it would melt in 2070. It has already melted 50 years ahead of schedule. That's pretty scary. The permafrost in Canada was supposed to thaw in 2090. It has already thawed 70 years ahead of schedule. The permafrost also has thawed in Alaska, and the forests are actually falling over because there's nothing to hold them. And they've been there before human beings were even, in the Americas. The refugee crisis in Central America on our U.S. southern border is because of a climate change drought. So thousands and thousands of people are starting to starve, and they're heading to the United States because that's the only place they can go, hopefully to find something. Vanuatu, they're preparing for the permanent evacuation of their island home. They've been there for thousands of years. They're going to permanently lose not only those islands, but their culture. You can't just take your culture and move it and expect to be able to maintain it and keep it. So this is the reality of what's happening right now. So how does this affect this group? Well, heat. It's getting hotter and hotter. And the first group of people who are affected by the heat are the elderly, Kupuna. They die. Without air conditioning, they're dying in their homes all across the world. The loss of affordable housing. As I said, Vanuatu and other Pacific islands, there is going to be a mass migration. It's already happening. We're already seeing Micronesians here, right? Well, it's going to get larger because they've got nowhere else to go. And so affordable housing is already tight. It's going to get worse. We're looking at a loss of tourism as our beaches disappear, a loss of jobs, and really important, the loss of cultural sites. People have been working for decades to rebuild the fish ponds. all that cultural education that went into building those fish ponds is going to disappear forever. How are they going to be able to tell maybe your grandkids telling their kids or their grandkids, well, there used to be something here, but now it's 3 feet underwater? That loss of culture is a loss of our future. And it's a loss of a legacy. So why is it important that you folks get involved? Well, the great thing is, our government is designed of and by for the people. And the only way that it works effectively is by getting involved. Every major change that's happened in this country did not have anything to do with any politician. It was the people rising up and saying, enough already, you must make this happen. The reason we have 40-hour work weeks and overtime pay is because unions got together and workers got together, formed unions and demanded that they get their rights. The reason women have the right to vote is because they all got together and said, this is enough. 70 years Democrats have promised us the right to vote, and for 70 years they ignored us. And they got together and they forced the government to give them the right to vote. Civil rights was the same way. So what to do? We have to act as if our house is on fire, because it is. Currently, we have Bill 25 in the County Council, and this is going to put solar on all new houses and buildings. And also, it's going to put EV ready. We have to get off of fossil fuels. We can no longer be driving around in our gas cars. So we have to have EV ready when you build a new house or your new apartment. If they try to put it in afterwards, the cost is astronomical. If they do it up front, it's hundreds of dollars. It's very, it's a lot cheaper. So these are two bills working. Also, AES coal plant needs to close down. They are polluting our atmosphere. They are polluting the waters. So AES has to close down. They're scheduled to close down in 2023. They're already backpedaling. We have to close that plant down. So these are just three bills, or three pieces of things that we're working on that we'd ask you to support. But there's going to be more. So I would ask you to go to the Sierra Club website and to 350 website. We track the climate change bills that are going through the legislature. Why this is equally important is because last year we had 130 climate change related bills. Only 9 Manini bills passed. There is no opposition to the Democratic Party in our legislature. Our Democratic representatives voted the bills that would have made a difference for climate change here down. So it's important that we all get involved. The way to do that is please go and testify. You can also submit your testimony online, so you don't, from the comfort of your own home. Letters to the editor are vital. We have to show that there's broad community support. Please sign, did they pass out the climate declaration? Yeah, and there's also the petition. I'm sorry, there's two, if you didn't get both, there's two different forms there. But anyway, so the declaration, we're asking the governor to declare a climate emergency because we are already there. There are 1,000 governments around the world, cities and counties, who have already declared a climate emergency. Hawaii would be the first state to do so. It's only a matter of time, we will. But the sooner the better, because the longer we wait, the more expensive it becomes, the more critical it becomes, the more drastic it becomes. I'm almost done, okay. So write op-eds, visit your reps. So far in our group, we have the Hawaii Youth Climate Strike, 350 Hawaii, Our Revolution Hawaii, and the Polynesian Voyaging Society. Polynesian Voyagers, they went around the world and saw the effects of climate change all around the world. So they were very anxious to join us, to encourage our legislature and our county councils to do something about climate change. And it can be done, we just need your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry if I went over.
Right on schedule. I think we're doing good. So I just want to make sure I give everybody a chance. So
Can I speak to the point that Nick brought up for the just one issue to tell people? All right.
I'm also on the Environmental Council, who knew, Caucus. There is a project called Honu on the Big Island. A company is building a power plant which will not use fossil fuels. Okay, what it will do is denude an entire mountain of trees, burn them, producing CO2 into the air and other waste products, use water, fresh groundwater, to clear out the toxic residue and dump it back into the land, very short way distance from the ocean. They are able to do this because of the way in which the laws concerning fossil fuels were written, which allows them to say, oh yeah, but we're not using fossil fuels, we're gonna be like non-fossil fuel electric plant. This electric plant will pollute more of that land. So be aware that there are holes and gaps in the legislation. Look out and Google these things and find out, because we will join with our brothers in the Sierra organization to support legislation that prohibits this kind of alternative energy, which is actually worse than the energy we have anyway. So just FYI.
Thank you, Martha. Yeah, these are really important topics. You know what? We're covering some really great ground here, I think. So, and each person here could spend easily 2 hours on each topic. Yeah, you wanted to go?
I'm sorry. There's this petition. Do you want us to send it around?
Yes,
or?
please sign it, or you can go online and sign it
Lila, you
online.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I can give you that as well.
Is the website on there, Dave?
It's bit.ly/4climate, and you can go there and sign it. You can also go to 350 Hawaii on Facebook and 350 Hawaii on the internet, and you'll find the petition. So bit.ly/4climate. And not only sign the petition, we get groups to sign it and share with as many people as possible. We have over 500 people so far.
Okay. All right, Lila?
Hi, before I start, if anyone wants more pizza, more lunch, there's lots. Please help yourself as I speak. I'm Lila Mower. I'm with Kukua Council, and I belong to ʻOia, which a lot of people cannot pronounce. Hi, Sharon. I got involved with condo issues in 2014 because of what was happening at a condo that Sharon Moriwaki and I own properties. And in that condo complex, we discovered there was embezzlement, misappropriation of funds, misuse of funds for personal interest. Ever since then, I've been concerned about condo issues, condo owners' rights. And my coalition at one time was over 300 members from over 150 associations. I let loose most of those members because it just became too big for me to handle by myself. I'm not going to reiterate what was already said. However, I do want to stress, while Lourdes talked about education, I would like to see some kind of licensure for property managers. They must be accountable for what the properties they manage. You know property values here in Hawaii. A regular house, single-family dwelling house, what you know, average price $800,000. A condominium, average price is half of that. Okay, so when we're talking about a 100-unit condominium, we're talking millions of dollars right there. And they manage these properties without having to be legally accountable. No, I said legally. They're not licensed. So that's important. Gail touched on electoral fraud. I'd like to see electoral fraud criminalized. The government that is most important to you is the government that's closest to you. If you live in a condominium, that's your condominium association. They tell you how many guests you can have, where your guests can park, when you can make noise, what color your drapes are, you know, how many cars you can park there, so forth and so on. That is the government closest to you. So when that government is voted in fraudulently, there has to be criminal repercussions. Let's see, Margaret, I think, was it Margaret? I'm sorry, Martha. Sorry, Martha. You spoke about the non-judicial foreclosures. Yes. And my huli and I were behind a bill that ensured that condo owners could not be foreclosed upon for failure to pay things like house rules violations. and we were fighting the non-judicial foreclosures. We found they're very unfair. We'd like to see due process. We'd like to see that whatever policies, rules, laws are in place, that they are enforced. Lourdes made mention of the Condo Education Trust Fund. Well, those money should be used for condo owners and to educate the condo owners and the board directors. Those are our monies. Condo owners pay into that Condo Education Trust Fund. They should not be used to subsidize the education of people in the condo industry, which is what is happening right now. The condo classes that are sponsored or come under the DCCA are at lunchtime in the middle of the work week. How many people can take off work in the middle of the work week, pay $75 to attend a luncheon for an hour and a half? Okay, so these are people that are in the industry that are being, whose luncheon classes are being subsidized by our dollars. I find that very unfair. When I asked to be on the ad hoc committee regarding the Condo Education Trust Fund, they told me no public members are allowed. Why is that? That's our money. Why does it have the only condo industry people that are represented? Anyway, we have a lot of concerns with the condo industry. Please be aware of this. 1 out of every 3 of you live in a condo. If you don't live in a condo, you might be living in a homeowners association. They too follow similar rules, and they too are subjected to non-judicial foreclosures, electoral fraud, so forth and so on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. Okay, so just going around the table. So who's next?
Should go this way.
Pointing to each other. So again, there's more. Go ahead. So there's more pizza if folks want to grab some. Don't be shy. Okay. So at the end of this, just because some people have come in as we're going along here, we have yellow cards that you're going to write what your current ideas are for legislative session for 2020. And then the green cards are to take everything that we're talking about and prioritize what your priorities would be. So at the end, we're going to fill those out also. Okay? So.
Hello. I don't think I brought enough handouts, so I was just saying if there's like 2 people from your office, maybe you could share. My name is Nicole, and I'm from Hawaii Appleseed. Some of you might know my organization. We advocate for low-income families in Hawaii. So everything from housing and homelessness to wages to taxes. We have a lot of priorities this session, including raising the minimum wage to a living wage and improving the earned income tax credit, which is for low-income workers. But for you, for Kokua Council, I'm bringing only one idea, which will be a bill, which is called paid family leave, or on this handout, family leave insurance. Most people, when they think of paid family leave, they think of babies, right? So you're like, why are you talking to Kokua Council about this? But as you can see in the bottom left corner of this flyer, it says that it is predicted that 77% of total leaves taken would be for family care. There was a study done a few years ago. We got, right at the very end of the Obama administration, Hawaii applied for and won money for a very comprehensive study of paid family leave in Hawaii. And it was conducted in 2017. And an expert, national expert came here, and she spent a few weeks here looking at our government programs. Another national expert in Washington, D.C. ran a bunch of numbers for us. So the numbers that we have in this study that was released for the 2018 legislative session is very comprehensive and very specific to people here in Hawaii and the fact that we're the fastest aging population in the country, and that we're going to need many ways to do Kupuna care. And as many of you probably worked on the Kupuna care law that we have, that was already talked about, that law helps people stay in the workforce when they're caring for their elderly relatives, right? So that's $70 a day for somebody who's working. But it's not for somebody who, at the very end of life has to take time off to care for someone. That's where paid family leave comes in. It's a complement. When it gets to the point where you can no longer work because you have to stay home, usually, unfortunately, that's the last month or 2 or 3 months of somebody's life. That's where paid family leave comes in, and that's why they're saying here in Hawaii, the majority of paid family leave is going to be for family care, and we know here that means kupuna care. So there are more numbers here. 150,000 people in Hawaii are estimated to be giving unpaid care to their family members, right? Why don't we raise our hands? Who's over 45 years old in this room, right? So over here it says 53% of Hawaii residents over 45 report having already provided unpaid care to an adult loved one. And then at the bottom in the middle it says 62 years old is the average age of a family caregiver, and that 1 in 5 of these caregivers actually just drop out of the workforce. Especially if you're 62 years old, it's going to be very hard to go back into the workforce. So these have implications for all our families. I don't have to go into all of it for you. But the bill that we hope to present is going to be very similar to what they have in every other developed country except the United States, and in about 6 other states, where it would be a payroll tax, like Social Security or Medicare or unemployment insurance. A little bit of money comes out of your paycheck, and then it provides you with a benefit. The really comprehensive study that was done showed that if we provided about 12 weeks of paid leave as a top limit, like you have to provide medical documentation, and you don't automatically get 12 weeks, but up to 12 weeks in a year, the amount given back to a worker would be higher for the low-wage workers, because we've learned from other states that if you give everybody the same percent back, the low-wage workers still can't afford to take time off. So, give a little bit more, like 90% of the paycheck to people who are really like minimum wage workers, and give like half of your salary back to people who make more. They run the numbers. It comes out to about $1 a week for the average worker taken out of their paycheck. So, and that's because these leaves are very rare, right? It's not that often that you're going to have to take time off. So it's a very cheap program. But it's something I think we all understand is needed here in Hawaii, and hopefully we can join the other 6 states, 5 states plus District of Columbia, that have these laws on the books. So look out for the paid family leave law or the family leave insurance law. We don't have a bill yet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, who's next?
Hi, my name is Ashleigh Loa. I'm from Faith Action for Community Equity. I'm a community organizer there. Faith Action will continue to work on affordable housing, focusing on housing for the population, for 0 to 80% AMI, which is area median income. And affordable housing affects everyone, families, singles, kupuna, but what makes the kupuna different is, as you all know, they are living on fixed incomes, which makes it even harder for them to afford housing, and that is why it is important to push for this. And Faith Action will also be working on organizing the homeless, and also we are working on living wage, so yeah.
Put us on schedule. Okay, next. Yeah. So, we're in the middle we're just past the middle section of this. I really want to thank everybody for making time to come and hear all of this and work together on these things.
Aloha, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Jodi. I work for the Sierra Club of Hawaii. Many of you are familiar with our organization. Very large environmental nonprofit nationally. Here in Hawaii, we have about 20,000 members. I'm the policy advocate, so I'm the main lobbyist. We haven't determined like a specific set of priorities for next session, but typically what happens when the bills come out is I review all of the bills that deal with the environment and decide which ones we're gonna prioritize. Our focus in the past has been climate change legislation. That's still gonna be a focus next session. So there's 2 parts of that. One, preparing for climate change, mitigating what we can, and then secondly, adapting to it. So on the mitigation side, this past session we've supported several bills that would accelerate our clean energy transition. ban fossil fuels, things like that. So we'll continue to support those. And then on the adaptation side, it's really about sea level rise, the impacts we're going to have to our coastlines, and making sure we better prepare for that. So those will be the main issues that we're focusing on. Outside of the legislature right now, a big part of my job is focusing on protecting our water at Red Hills. So many of you know that the Navy owns 20 massive fuel tanks 100 feet over our primary drinking water aquifer. So there's a public hearing coming up in November that we're advocating around. Our position is the Navy needs to relocate those tanks. Some of the other positions are that the tanks should be double-lined. Currently, the Navy is proposing to not really do too much. They want to keep the single-line tank liner with some efforts to update leak prevention, leak detection, but really no substantive plan to upgrade the tanks. So that's what I'm working on currently. As I mentioned, we're going to decide what our main priorities are after speaking with legislators and seeing what the bills come out. We do have a website that shows all of our all the bills that we're tracking, has our bill tracker on it, as well as action alerts. So we send out emails as well as like draft testimony for folks to submit or oppose bills, and that website is hawaiicapitalwatch.org. So that's a great way that you can sign up for email updates and see what we're working on. I will say that we don't only work on environmental issues. I love that the Sierra Club also works on some economic and social justice issues. So in the past, we've supported things like living wage, affordable housing, and we'll continue to do that as well. Our position on that is that as soon as people's basic needs are covered, then they're able to start thinking about the environment. So it's important to start thinking about how we can make life in Hawaii more affordable, better for everyone overall, so that we can then bridge the divide and start thinking about, protecting the environment. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Yes?
So my understanding was that it wouldn't be enough to just move the tanks, because then it would be a similar problem where there's still a chance that the jet fuel will hit the aquifer. So I thought Sierra Club was advocating for just no jet fuel tanks.
We're advocating for relocation of the tanks above 2 locations that are not above our drinking water. So the Navy did do a study, their alternate location study, where they evaluated 12 potential sites they could relocate the tanks. Unfortunately, their preferred site was immediately Mauka, adjacent to the existing tanks, still above our water. So their preferred site would be to move just right next to Red Hill and build 40 new tanks. And so we're opposing that, of course.
Oh, so where are they I'm sorry, where are you suggesting? Because they want the gravity, right? They want the gravity. So where are you proposing?
So that study needs to be completely reworked for it to be. The way that it was structured, liking the gravity fed, put a lot of emphasis on that particular location.
Thank you.
Sorry, we don't have time for too many more questions. We've got a few more people to go. Who still wants to present here? Yeah, okay, so you're up. Oh.
No, did you point to somebody else?
I think you're next. So we're right on target if we just keep them to 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm JoAnn Goss, representing HARA as well as HSTA retired. I'm speaking on behalf of for Hawaii Promise. Hawaii Promise is a scholarship program to provide free in-state tuition for qualified University Hawaii Community College students with financial needs. Hawaii Promise covers direct education costs, such as tuition, fees, books, supplies, and transportation for eligible students. Hawaii Promise is a last dollar scholarship, meaning that it will cover financial needs not met by other forms of financial aid, such as federal grants and benefits from scholarships from UH, employers, and other private sources. The $2.5 million program is funded annually by the state of Hawaii and was established by state leaders through the appropriations in the 2017 and 2018 legislative sessions. In 2017 through 18, approximately 1,500 students received Hawaii Promise scholarships to support starting or continuing their community college education. The average award was $1,200. Every student who is eligible receives the Hawaii Promise scholarship. Students are considered for Hawaii Promise when they submit their FAFSA application to determine their unmet need and maintain standards of academic progress as defined by the federal Title IV financial aid programs. Students must qualify for Hawaii residence tuition and be enrolled in a degree program at the UH Community College for at least 6 credits per semester. Awards are included in students' financial aid packages issued by the college. And I have a list here of the credits students had taken on student campuses, and it's all throughout the state. And over the years, from 2008 to 2018, the numbers have decreased for the most part. Just a few of the community colleges have actually increased. Hawaii's community colleges, our hope is that they would get local jobs here. Hawaii students would get local jobs here if they stayed in Hawaii, if they went to community colleges. And this would also be a way for Hawaii students to help seniors to take care of them in their homes and neighborhoods. And we know that there's a high population. 1/4 now of the population is senior citizens, and soon to be 1/3. And we do need extra caregivers for that. Pell Grants are available for students, and I understand they're still open. Mahalo. Questions?
Thank you.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Candace Fujikane, and I'm a board member of KAHEA, the Hawaiian Environmental Alliance. I'm also an English professor at the University of Hawaii. So I was thinking about what Dave and Martha were talking about in terms of common ground. So we're all concerned about the climate. And Mauna Kea is a climate issue because it is a water issue. So the question is why 33 kupuna made the decision to get arrested on the Mauna. Mauna Kea is sacred because it is the source of water for Hawaii Island. If you listen to the Institute for Astronomy, they're going to say there's no water issue because the environmental impact statement says there's no water issue. There has been no comprehensive hydrological study done of the TMT site. And I really appreciate Senator Moriwaki that you supported water issues at the legislature last legislative session. This is also a water issue. In the TMT contested case hearing, the hydrologist expert for the University of Hawaii testified that he does not know where the groundwater is, and yet argued that the TMT would pose no threat to the aquifer. That is not an acceptable argument. The EIS went through because the only way you can stop an EIS is by bringing a lawsuit against it. So even though people felt the EIS was incorrect, they could not necessarily, they didn't have the means to bring a lawsuit against the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement. Okay, so when we think about how people are saying, well, the TMT has jumped all the hurdles and it's now, the Hawaii Supreme Court says that they can legally proceed. Let's look at what the Hawaii Supreme Court said. They said that because there are 13 or 12 telescopes on Mauna Kea, that means that the mountain is so degraded that if you add another telescope, it won't matter. But this telescope is 18 stories, is going to be 18 stories tall. It's 180 feet tall. It'll excavate 20 feet into the ground. It'll remove almost 2 million cubic feet of earth. And they don't know where the water is. And the problem it poses to the water specifically is that there will be 2 underground, 5,000 gallon underground tanks. One 5,000 gallon tank for human wastewater and one 5,000 gallon tank for chemical wastewater that they use to wash the lenses for the telescopes. Now, once a month, the plan is to get a big truck up there and to truck off 14 tons from 2 of the tanks, 14 tons of this toxic liquid down the mountain. Now, if you've ever been up to Mauna Kea, very few people can go up there because you need a 4-wheel drive truck. It's a very steep and winding road, and during the winter time, the roads are very dangerous. How are they going to consistently empty out those underground tanks? The EIS explicitly states that there's a higher risk of toxic spills at the point of emptying those tanks on the top of Mauna Kea. Okay, so when the Supreme Court says, oh, you know, the EIS says there's no threat to water, It is not a valid argument. And there was one justice at the Hawaii Supreme Court who said that the other 4 justices were incorrect in their evaluation of the EIS, and he stated, it doesn't mean that one doesn't matter. What he said is, environmental law means that we need to protect what's left and repair what's damaged. That is very important when we look at climate change. So what I wanted to say is, if there's legislation coming up on Mauna Kea, I hope you'll support the people who are there. They have been up there for 100 days. I spent 2 weeks up there. I actually developed a macular hole in my eye because I was so dehydrated and I had to have surgery. So the vision in my right eye is not as good, but it was something I was willing to do because I feel that the Mauna is sacred, and I feel that it is the source of our water. I don't just feel, I know it's the source of our water as it's recorded in the Mo'olelo. Thanks so much. Yeah.
I know you mean well, and I'll answer this question. You're sure you're more well-versed in it than I am, but I think they should build a TMT.
I think that there are, the reasons the astronomers give for building the TMT are not very strong, because there are already bigger telescopes in Chile. So it's not going to be the best telescope. It's going to be right now about the 5th best telescope, and it's becoming the technology for it. It's been in the works from 2009. It's already obsolete. It's 11 years old.
And what about the young people that want to?
We're gonna move on. We can do hours on each one of these.
All right.
Seriously. And Senator Will. So we got Jessica here from AARP.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Nice to see you all here. I'm Jessica Wooley with AARP. And actually, before I put that hat on, I just want to respond to Candace. So I used to be the director at the Office of Environmental Quality Control. And just so you all know, there really is no environmental agency looking out for our public resources or our plants and animals. I mean, people will often talk about DLNR, but let's not go there. But that's not really their primary job. It's actually under OEQC, but OEQC has never been funded. So the environmental review process is a good process, but it's primarily driven by the private sector. It's not a government oversight in any way to make sure that the environment's protected, except through the process itself, right? So, supposedly there's mitigation, but as we all know that, any project can theoretically go through, regardless of the impacts under the statute. Okay, mahalo. All right, I'm putting on my AARP hat. Mahalo for all that you do. We're talking about so many important issues here. It's difficult sometimes to be joyful and optimistic when we think about all the problems that we have to solve. At AARP, we've been working on Hawaii Saves for 3 years now. This will be our 3rd year. There's been a lot of effort by many of you, and I just want to say mahalo because last session I started in January. I think the bill itself kind of got started in January, mid-January, and yet you all really came forward to support it. So just mahalo. It's good to work with coalitions who recognize the importance of standing together. And I'm also hopeful that AARP will be better able to do that in the future. I would encourage you all to take a look at our policy book, which is online at aarp.org. And it includes housing. It includes focusing on specific groups, minority groups, that need attention for a variety of reasons, obviously related to Kupuna issues. And it also includes now climate change type issues. So, it's not that we can suddenly, shift this massive canoe of AARP, but it's a very innovative nonprofit. It's very much focused on finding solutions and using innovation to do that, to address some of our biggest problems. And the irony, actually, in some respects, is that Hawaii Saves is sometimes a difficult concept for many of our members because we serve 50 and over. We're all about disrupt aging and all that is in front of you when you're 50 and older. And Hawaii Saves is a little bit more about the next generation. It's really identifying this puka that we have left open where over half of our private sector workers have no easy way to save. They're not saving. They're not going to do it. 5% of the people in the private sector in that situation will do it on their own. 5%. So that means all these young millennials who are working in the private sector, if it's a small mom and pop, they're not saving. And we also know in Hawaii we live longer. And we have more challenges economically, you know, keeping a roof over our head, feeding ourselves. So we really need to step forward on these types of programs. I think this session, it will be clear we will have so much support from all of you and the legislature. All of our legislators have been supportive. I want to call out, we have Senator Moiwaki here. She's not only a senator with a lot of experience and expertise, which is very unusual, she's also the co-chair of the Kupuna Caucus. So she's a critical person. She's taken the time to be here. And so anyway, she's done a lot of work for Kupuna. And one reason we don't have to fight this session over a lot of the funding, I think, is because of her work. And hopefully the Kupuna caregivers is just a budget item this session, right? It's not a battle. We need to fund these important programs. No ifs, ands, or buts. So with that, I want to let you know there's a lot of fact sheets at the front. I'm going to pass around a petition, actually a couple of petitions. We also have a federal campaign that may turn into a state campaign to stop RX greed. As many of you know, the cost of prescriptions have skyrocketed in the United States for a variety of reasons, and it really has to do with our pharmacy manufacturers. They're making a lot of money off of a lot of people who need medicine. So we need to change that system. We do have items in Congress that are potentially going to move forward. We do also have, some legislators at the state level working on it. I do believe we're going to see some bills to help us increase transparency and potentially rein in the costs for some of these really necessary medicines. So I want to open it up to any questions. I know that was real quick. I'm going to pass around this petition. Please sign it and let me know if you're interested, if you have any businesses or small, or younger people, millennials, who will be willing to step forward to speak up. This is the time, right? This is an easy solution. Let's not wait. Let's give people the tools so everybody has an easy choice to save. Mahalo.
All right. So thank you to everybody that presented. You had a question.
No. Can I speak?
Oh, you're speaking too. Okay. Anybody else I missed? Okay, come on up.
So I'll be very quick.
No. We're pretty much on time. So remember now what we're doing though on the green card, you're going to prioritize what you've heard here today in the order that you think we should focus on it so that our council can kind of zero in on those things. Okay.
Sorry everyone, I know we're getting close to the end of time. My name is Sandy Ma. I'm with Common Cause Hawaii. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving our core democracy issues. I just have a couple of things to say. One is our voting system is changing in Hawaii, starting with the 2020 elections. We are changing to all vote by mail. It's going to be mandatory vote by mail in the state, starting with our primary elections on August 8th. So the state Senate and House Judiciary Committees are doing an informational briefing on November 13th from 2 to 4 at the state capitol. So if you could attend to listen on our mandatory informational briefing, not mandatory informational briefing, mandatory statewide vote by mail and how it's going to change. So no more polling stations, so it'll just be voter service centers from now on. So if you're interested in how that's going to change, how you're going to be getting your ballots in the mail, please attend. So that's going to be November 13th from 2 to 4 at the state capitol. Another thing is I'd like to ask for the Kupuna Council's support on Article 5 Constitutional Convention. Your support in objecting to the Article 5 Constitutional Convention. The last few years, there's been a lot of push for the state to support a call for an Article 5 Constitutional Convention. That's not really a good idea because a lot of our hard-fought rights will be at stake. A lot of our social safety nets, our voting rights, women's rights, a lot of rights will be at stake. And so I hope the Kupuna Council will think about, if you've not already taken a position on that issue, opposing the call for Article 5 Constitutional Convention. That is not a state constitutional convention, but that is a national constitutional convention. So that's something I hope the Kupuna Council will think about objecting to. So thank you. Thank you. If anybody has any questions, I will stick around a little bit.
Okay, we have one more presenter. So Pokiʻi and I both are with the Alzheimer's Association also, so she's going to speak a little bit to that since I'm moderating.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Are we still hanging on in there?
Yeah.
All right. I'll just be really quick. So, like Rick said, both of us help out at the association. We're volunteers. I'm also a provider at KKV, geriatrics. And so one of the things that the Alzheimer's Association is really looking at right now is dementia training for first responders, which I think we know that they are great at what they do. I've had experience with them coming to help my father. I'm also a caregiver. My father has Alzheimer's. But there's still a lot that they don't know. And so when we're talking about dementias, especially when we're talking about behaviors, and I see that with air quotes, it would be really important for them to know how to understand and how to deal with people who have dementia, all types. We're not just talking about Alzheimer's. And so that is one big push that they are looking for this legislative session, as well as education. And we all know that there's a lot of education out here, but I'm talking about education also for professionals, like my colleagues, for a lot of who don't understand what it's like to be with dementia, to work with people like that. And I love coming to these things because I always get to hear such great things and find out more resources. But some things that I did really quickly, I'm looking at Rick if I got time, is we talk about, we do have a physician shortage, and it is very sad, and we do need to keep our physicians home. And I know we were talking about for the students, but I think we also forget too that we have nurse practitioners here in this state who are being educated to fill that void. And so though we might be losing our physicians, and I'm not saying that physicians aren't needed because they are very much needed, we need to remember that we have, three at least of our universities, Manoa, Hilo, and HPU, that are producing nurse practitioners. And in this state, nurse practitioners do have free autonomy, and so they can help out with this gap. They are trained, they are well-versed in whatever specialty area that they're in. So that's just one place to kind of help. But Michelle was here, and she said a lot of the things that I wanted to. We have so many, look around us, there's so many great places out here. The problem is we're not all hooked up together. There's not a one-stop system where we can find this information, where we can all collaborate together, where we can say, this person isn't qualifying for this, can I send them over to you? And so I think that was a huge thing that she was bringing up. I do support the forum she brought up. Another place I think that we're missing that we didn't really talk about, whether it's geriatrics or dementia and Alzheimer's training, care, education, whatever, is the LTC and the SNFs. A lot of our seniors are ending up in there. A lot of them still need help and services. A lot of the people that are in there need training. And so we're all connected together, but I think that's another huge part. And I'll end with the association is also looking to build a dementia workforce, which would be a huge thing to come out around the island. I personally, at KKV, am part of the GRACE project where I go into the homes. So I take our services to the Kupuna. So I go into the homes and I provide assessments, and a social worker comes with me so that we can hook them up to the needed services. And I think that would be a great thing to expand, not just in our area of Kalihi, but to expand around the island. Okay, we're not just talking about, the public health nurses are great, but this is actually a program to go in there and connect them with not only medical, but any of the resources that you guys have and more. And so it's a great place up, but like my yellow card got back in front, so I'll stop here and turn it back over to Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we know that there's 29,000 folks in Hawaii diagnosed right now with dementia, Alzheimer's, but we also know it's far short of what actually exists here on the island. So screenings is the other big thing that we're kind of working on with the Alzheimer's Association. So back to my moderator hat. So we'd like to have the board kind of meet after this for a little bit, right? Did I miss anybody that wanted to present? So almost everybody in here presented. So you guys are remarkable. I mean, one thing that I've really noticed So I'm involved in many different organizations. I won't rattle them all off because it'll take 5 minutes to do that. So my whole thing is about not having the silos, all of us working together. And I really appreciate everybody coming in here today and working together, especially with it being a changed Monday. For the fact that everyone made it is just amazing. And what you shared is so important. So I really, really value everything that everybody shared here. Round of applause for everybody. And a big round of applause for our senator for joining us, which I think is just remarkable. Really appreciate that. I really appreciate working with you. Yeah? Okay. Was there anything else I needed to? So we just want to make sure you turn the cards in, okay? Because that's the next piece that's going to pull this all together. So again, the yellow card is your ideas of what we should be working on. The green one is just prioritizing what you've heard here today so we can focus on that going into our 2020 session. Okay? Thank you, everybody. And the board will meet right in here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Should we thank Doug?
The video is available on the
Hey, there's a video that's been being made. So all of you guys have been filmed. And it's going to be available where?
Kokua Council's
we'll put it on the Kokua Council.
It's on. It's live. It's on. As soon as it finishes, it goes play on demand.
It's there now if you want to replay it.